Hello and welcome back to Pablo's Vault of Horror. Now that was L7 with Pretend We're Dead. Prior to that we had Evil Blizzard with Spread the Fear. And of course me and Rosemary's Baby's theme, which is a perennial favourite here on the Vault of Horror. Now, as you may be aware if you've been checking the old Twitters, as I do like to use for advertising this particular show, Pablo's Vault of Horror, with me, Pablo, and the Vault of Horror. We've got some guests in today, so we'll be speaking to them in a little while. We're just going to play a couple more songs first, but we've got a couple of people from Dead Real Films in today, as well as a certain chap from the Spanish Announce Table show, one of our very own Nova Radio's finest, which is on Wednesdays, I believe 8 till 10. So we'll be speaking to them soon, but we're going to go straight back into some songs first, just so everybody can fully lubricate themselves, so to speak. We're going to go into Magnet with Corn Rigs, followed by Warren Zevon, Werewolves of London, and then we'll be right back with That Crew. Okie dokes. What we'll do after this then is I'll just get you all on just a general chitter-chatter, and then I'll probably focus on You Pair first, and then wrestling side, and then we'll kind of recombine for mixtures of horror and whatnot, and probably stick some songs on in between.
So what kind of horror are you into, Pablo?
Oh, anything really.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I'm no snob. I'll go from the lowest lows to the highest highs.
Do you have a favourite?
I quite like zombie films, but it's quite hard to find like new.
You need to read our script. We've got the best zombie film next coming up.
Oh, man.
It's called Tomb to Die.
Well, we'll save it for the airwaves.
We'll do. But if you like your zombies, you'll love Tomb to Die. So Freddy or Jason, by the way? That's the question.
No. Oh, Jason for me.
Yes!
Welcome back to Pablo's Vault of Horror. That was Warren Zevon with Werewolves of London. Very good name, not Warren Zevon. I wish I had a name like that. And Magnet with Corn Rigs from the... oh my goodness, I'm just completely blank there. That one about the island with the burning man, and that's, you know... The Wicker Man? The Wicker Man, that's the one. Well, that leads me quite nicely on to what I alluded to earlier, the guests that we have on today, so I'll just press the fader up, zoom. Right, so I'll say first off, I'll say hello to Wayne Madden of this here parish of the Spanish Announce Table. Hello, Wayne.
Good evening. Absolute pleasure. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And also along with Wayne, we also have Wayne Thompson and Dawn Crute of Dead Real Films. Hello, Dawn and Wayne.
Hello.
Hello there.
Yes, I'm very much aware of the fact that everybody sounds a lot better than me right now, but I'll carry on regardless. Obviously, as I said, Dead Real Films. I believe this is a new venture that you're going into. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. Basically, I'm company director of another film company called Easy as Pie Productions. We do a lot of variations. Dawn and I have worked together in horror for a lot of years, doing scare haunt parks. So we have a lot of fun doing that. And I'll pass on to Dawn for the next bit.
About 2013, 2014, I got really unwell and had to take a step back from quite a lot of things like my acting, directing, and then it's kind of one of those things when you fall out of it, it's really hard to get back into it. So coming back to do the horror haunts, that's when I met Wayne, and then kind of over the years we started going, oh, why, there's just not enough going on out here, like, and then Wayne went, well, actually, I have an idea that you might like, and yeah, that's pretty...
Dead Real was born.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, grand. So,
long story short.
Obviously, we'll go back onto the Dead Real films in a mo, but with the horror parks and the like, I know at Halloween, not quite a park, but I went to the Linskill Chase in North Shields, which was very good kind of interactive theme thing, and I believe the ones I know they do them up Plessy Woods, and where was it that you had yours based more?
We work at Scream Factory down in Redcar.
All right, huh?
It's just won its second award last year. 2 years and it's been winning awards now. It's very entertaining. There is some more, and others have one just started up in next to Beamish in the last year or so. But we've been running now, what, 7 years?
Yeah, but since 2012, I think the
Yeah,
first year
7,
was.
8 years.
Oh,
It's
great.
gone a long time.
No, and yeah, I'm assuming you've seen those kind of build and build with popularity over the years. Because I know when I first saw them advertised, probably a few years back, possibly your very own one, I thought that's something I'd be very interested in, but not necessarily for everybody. But then, as the years have gone on, they've become more and more. It seems to be that everybody and their kids and all sorts are going along with these things. So did you notice that they were kind of building popularity year on year?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Definitely.
I think we started off with something like 6 days a week, and now we're on to like 13 days a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, families do come along more than just people on the one. It's crazy.
I mean,
Crazy.
they've gotten that big. They've started going out into Valentine's. Me and Wayne are there next week doing the Valentine's Day event, which actually we've just done some promotion for them. So which are going live this week, hopefully.
Yeah, Debbie was really inspired that. Debbie actually filmed some commercials for them quite recently, which one's live, one's live from us at the moment, and there should be another one coming very soon.
So yeah, it's definitely grown over the years, and then, like I say, getting to know Wayne over the years and actually building that trust together. Because before it was just we were just people who met at this park, and then started talking outside the park, and that's when kind of just started to realise, oh, we can actually do something like this together. It's quite fun.
You are right, about the growing side, because I remember back in 2012, my first experience was actually in America working in a skate park, because I'd never heard of any in the UK. And then came back and found out they just started, and it's got bigger every year.
Yeah, no, that's it. I must say that the one I went to was very good, and it was a lot more than I was expecting. Because I know with these kind of things, sometimes it could very easily be you've got access to a building on the right time of year, and you can take advantage of that. But it does seem that anybody who's kind of gone along that route has kind of gone by the wayside, and those that have been taking it seriously, like yourselves and others, have continued to flourish from there. So obviously with Deadville Films itself, so what are the plans for that? What have you got? What irons have you got in the fire?
Because we're quite a new company, we're starting out like anybody else. We're doing a couple of short films as well as just doing those commercials. But we're looking at doing the short films different to a lot of people. Short films go nowhere. Let's get that out there now. Everybody does them, they go nowhere. So we thought, let's do some short films, but do them as maybe as part of a TV series. Very much along the lines of Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, I like that.
So we've got a little TV show called The Gravedigger's Diaries, which we're working on at the moment. And from there, I think we've got a couple of features lined up as well. It all comes down to funding, you see. Funding is one of the hardest things to get in the UK. We've been very fortunate to get Scarecon to support us, who is the Europe's only attraction industry for awards for these Halloween parks.
Yeah.
They like what we're doing, and they said they'll support us to try and help us raise the funds to get that one underway. And yeah, we've got quite a bit, because obviously we went for another company as well, we've got quite a bit going on at the moment.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that, Universal in Florida have kind of cornered the market, well, not just in Florida, but Universal in America, Universal Studios, they've kind of cornered the market on the whole extravaganza event thing. So it's interesting to hear more of the UK-based theme parks are kind of looking in that direction as well. So yeah, because I mean, we had Richard Roundtree, not Shaft, just to clarify that.
I was just going to say, what?
Yes, the director of independent film Dogged, which actually has quite Wickermanish tones to it. But he was in, and I know from his experience in regards to the short films, and I know it's few and far between that it occurs, but I think with his shorts, that was something that he was able to use to then get a bit of funding to make the full film.
That's the best thing to do, yeah. That's the only thing they are good for, to try and help leverage, to show what you're capable of doing. What I mean by the redundant is they go nowhere. They'll go on your website and hopefully somebody might see them in time. You can send them into festivals, you'll win an award, but it's hitting the right person to see them.
Yeah, and I suppose the benefit of like kind of packaging them up, as you're saying, you're going to do with a TV show is because the other thing that I've seen with a lot of the like the horror shorts specifically is a lot of them kind of get eaten up by. I mean, no offense to the guy, but like Crute TV, where they have a lot of independent filmmakers doing shorts, and it all basically ends up coming out under their banner. Which is all fine and well, and there may be something coming out from there, but I often find that it kind of takes away from the fact that a lot of those stories, whether they're continuing or just one-offs, are from individual independent filmmakers from around the world, and all you end up coming away from is, that Crute TV short was quite good.
Exactly.
You know, and so at most, if it's not going to be used for marketing material, like you say, it's very, very much probably going to be used by somebody else to their own advantage, rather than developing new talent. No offense to Eli Roth. I'm not saying that he's run out of ideas or anything like that. Although I have seen his last few films, and I could probably argue that point.
I totally agree. I think he's slowed himself down a little bit.
Well, he's also a very confident man. Any interview I've ever heard with him, he's superbly confident to the point where I think I couldn't stand to be in the same room as him than more than 2 minutes.
Well, confidence does go a long way, and I can understand why he's confident. We're confident in what we do, but he's got the breaks we haven't yet.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's confidence, and then there's ego. It's
that's
trying to level it out.
Yeah, I think once you kind of as long as you're developing things, then that's all grand. And also the thing that people always seem to forget about the Hollywood system is that, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Eli Roth came out of nowhere. I believe that there's some sort of familial link to the business somewhere down the line.
As there is a lot in this industry.
Yeah, as there is most of the time. So if you come in from a truly independent, like you haven't been New York State, or you haven't been here, or you haven't got a family member there, or your auntie didn't work somewhere once, and you always hear these stories with people who if it isn't some sort of direct connection, it literally is something like, my mum used to make the tea at Pinewood, and one day she bumped into Mark Hamill, and he said, here's a job, and it went swimmingly from there. I think those stories are once in a blue moon, so it's good to be able to get something that is your own and package it in your own way. Although when you first said you were putting short films together, I had this almost like a kind of horror sketch show that would have, But we'll talk when the mics are off. I don't want to put out any ideas there now.
That's the difficult part about it, trying to get across what you're doing, so hopefully somebody out there might hear. But at the same time, you've got to be very protective of your own material in case people do it. So I totally agree with what you just said there.
Yes, that's it. Always make sure you've got all the legal copyright and all that sort of stuff signed, sealed, and delivered before you release any deets.
But we were talking about the festivals early on as well. I mean, going back to the festivals, they're just so expensive these days. And I don't mean just for submitting, I mean to get there.
Yeah.
To support your film. So again, it's just eating at the budget, and is it feasible? So that's why we went down the route of let's do an extended short to a degree, and maybe do a TV series instead.
No, that's brilliant. That's grand. And not to say to Wrestling Wayne, as I'm calling him, Wayne Madden, that we haven't forgotten about him. We'll be talking to him in a mo. But I'm going to stick some more songs on, and we'll be back having a chat with Wayne, and then probably a few more songs, and then we'll have a bit of a melee. Not a fight to the death. I'm not going battle royale. None of those routes. Although I have hidden some weapons about this room, and those collars that I made you put on. You won't be able to take them off.
Not again.
Just to say, if they do come off, your head's coming too. So
finish this Saw franchise.
But yeah, so we're going to have a couple of songs coming up, just for a bit of fun. Are you familiar with Max Landis?
Yeah. Right, and
Jerk
Jet Li, the American version.
Yeah, I really like it. I was quite against it when I first heard about it, because obviously it's, W. said it was quite sacred text and all that sort of stuff. But I really liked it, Gently Both.
I loved the first season. I thought the second half of the second season was great, but the first half was just too weird.
Yeah, Gently's my ringtone.
I really like that.
The one with Elijah Wooden.
Oh, the American one.
Yeah, the American one. The British one
Max
was
Landis one.
where Stephen Mangan did that, but it was very much, it kept very much to the kind of laws of feasibility, even though it's playing about with the whole kind of...
Britain don't seem to have the cojones to try and step outside the box. That's one of the biggest problems you'll find in Britain. And we tend to go down the American route a lot more than what
we do.
other people do. Because we want to entertain the world, not just Britain, in the end. And I find Britain sometimes do just try to entertain Britain.
Yeah, well that's it, it's kind of like, let's not rock the boat type of thing.
Do you think I went, Wayne?
Good.
Yeah.
I think you're very well spoken. You have a lovely, elegant voice about you. You really do. The pair of you, you have a lovely, elegant voice.
I was literally going,
I didn't swear.
I don't worry.
I'm so proud of myself.
Do you know what makes me laugh when they say don't worry about the swearing? I mean, with all due respect to Dean. Well, you see, Dean's argument is that, like, oh, what if someone was listening in with their child? And I'm like,
it's 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly. He says this to me for the wrestling show, and I say, well, listen, I can understand because we start at 8 and we finish at 10. But I mean, if you're listening at flipping 11 o'clock at night and you've got a child next to you and someone uses a swear word on the radio, you don't really have a leg to stand on right now going, I was listening with my child at 11. He's thinking maybe some, there's a mother up feeding her child and she puts on Nova. Well, fair enough, but she's hardly going to put on the horror show while feeding the child. Like,
I thought she put on Nova because of the rock songs, really.
Well, there
the
you go,
baby would just wake up.
Right, so we're back at Pablo's Vault of Horror with the two Waynes and Dawn. And of course, it was Mike. Is it Michael? Sorry, I'm completely... Henry. Sorry, Henry. I don't know where I got Mike off from. We also have Henry here, who is recording things for his own purposes. He hasn't explained it. Nobody actually knows who he is. He just came in and set up a camera, so I'm a little bit worried. But we'll crack on. Right, well... As you can tell, the fader goes up, the echo comes in, so I'm going to be talking to our guests again. This time I'm going to focus my attention squarely on Wayne Madden of, as I say, of this parish, Nova Radio. With
I suppose I better say as well, just on that project, because I know a couple of people are listening and they will kill me if I don't. So a couple of months ago, when we got together with Nova, I have been working with Nova for years doing different bits and pieces, but Nova had effectively came to me and said, we'd like you to do a project every week. And I said, yeah, that would be great. And we tried to come up with some ideas. And it was at that point that I started a kind of a test run pilot with a gentleman named Mark Fox, who I believe you may know as the Grapple Arcade. And we did a kind of a test run show for a wrestling show. And we got in another guy named Turn Chuckle, who's also known as Pablo Mellons, the musician. And he basically, the three of us did a show together. And we thought this could be something quite interesting. But the beautiful thing about it has been that in the last couple of months, we've managed to get a number of people, including Chris Welsh, who I've worked with for years but have never managed to do a project with, and Neil McGeever and whatnot, who I've known for about 8 or 9 years, and we managed to get him to work on the show as well. And ironically, and I know you're going to think I'm making this up, your listeners might do, but it was actually Neil, funny enough, who introduced me to Wayne Thompson about 8-9 years ago. So the world is such a small place that it was actually Neil who introduced me to Wayne. And, you end up meeting people in all these different projects, which is kind of crazy how that happens.
Well, it's nice to have like kind of a little incestuous bed of nepotism
going
on there.
That's
nice
one way to put it.
Which is the exact thing that Wayne Thompson was arguing against in his piece before we went to those songs.
Yes.
But that's okay.
But
you were arguing against nepotism, I'm saying. Yes.
What's that?
You were. Yes.
Okay.
Right, well, what we'll do is we'll play a couple more songs as we've just breached the 11 o'clock mark, and then after this we're going to play a game that I've conceived and concocted from my own damaged mind. And from there we're going to have a bit more of a kind of, unleashed chat. I say unleashed, the swear box is still in effect, but we are going to... just have a general chit-chat about horror and maybe mixing a little bit of the old wrestling into that. Glenn Jacobs, Kane, he might be a mayor now. He used to be a wrestler, but he's also been in horror films. Let's not forget. I See No Evil. I See No Evil too. I see them both. And Roddy Piper. Oh well, we can get into that. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, you know. But yes, unfortunately, I don't have the theme tune to Hell Comes to Frogtown. But for the moment, I'm gonna go straight to a jingle for this glorious station, Nova Radio, which you can find on www.novaradio.co.uk, on Facebook at Nova Radio Northeast. Just do a search, you'll find it. And on Twitter at Nova Radio NE. The N and E to do phonetically is November Echo, but it's Nova Radio NE. Letters at the end. You get the idea. And of course, if you want to get in contact with me, it's at Pablo Bonzo on Twitter. That's Pablo like the painter, Bonzo like the clown. Combine the two, at Pablo Bonzo. And you can find me there. So yeah, any questions, any queries, anything like that? You may even be able to join in the game, which we'll play soon, if these chuckleheads can't get the answers. So we'll go from there. So next up, I said we've got a jingle, and then we're going to be playing Scary Monsters, as made famous by David Bowie, but for some reason I've got the Halloween Singers version of it, but it's not that bad, it's quite good. I also have Rob Zombie, Werewolf Baby, and Iron Maiden, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, which, if memory serves, is the highest ranking hit in the old hit parade over here. So, take that for what it's worth. It also won a BAFTA for Best Live Show a few years back. So, I like Iron Maiden. You got a problem with that? Find me on Twitter. Right, okay, dokes. So, we'll be back after these. Yeah, so this was yours, Dawn, but obviously, as I say, it's not going out.
Okay. Ooh. It's pretty sweet. I like that. It's not going out. Oh.
I'll still probably play this. So. And this is
Isn't he giggling?
Have you been down here earlier or something?
Yeah. That was being sassy, but
Kept that one quiet.
Hello and welcome back to Pablo's Vault of Horror with me, Pablo, and this, my Vault of Horror. Welcome. Do take a seat. Right, so I have Wayne and Dawn with me here. You notice the echo because I'm bringing up the microphone. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game that I've concocted. I apologise in advance for the game, but I think we might enjoy it. We'll see. This particular game, I'll just play the jingle.
Wayne and Wayne with Wayne and Wayne.
Yes, so that's Wayning Waynes with Wayne and Wayne. Just to explain that concept, that premise, that gem of an idea, what it is a lot of times in horror films, whenever children are involved, obviously it can be a touchy subject, and often directors don't go along the route of maybe killing off a child. They're often get taken right to the brink and then brought back, or sometimes they're even the villain of the piece. But more often than not, there's often a sickly child involved in a horror film. If there's a child in a horror film, they're going to get sick, whether it's demonic, toxic, I don't know, just some sort of weird zombie virus, whatever it is, that something's going to happen, and they're probably going to get you. That's children for you. As such, I have 3 children who are going to basically explain from their own perspective a film that they were in. Obviously not the actresses or the actors, I'm talking specifically the characters. So what they're going to do is they're going to basically say what happened to them, around them, by them, to the side of them, and they're going to do that whilst you try and work out who they are. Extra points if you do get the name. but more importantly, what film they're talking about. So,
No headphones.
I was going to say, we've got a bit of a one-up here, Wayne, because other Wayne doesn't have headphones.
well, what I'll try and do is this may make the mixing desk explode, but I'll try and turn up the monitor and turn down the microphones whilst it's on, and then hopefully we'll all be able to hear it and nothing will explode. So we'll go silent for a brief second, and then we'll go straight on to... Oh, this isn't going to work, is it? No, there we go. And then we'll go straight on to the first one before the feedback hits. Right, so this is the first child.
Everything went crazy, and me, Mummy and Daddy got in our car to drive to safety. Monsters tipped over the car, and we hid in the cellar of this farmhouse. Lots of other people are here too. A man and a crazy lady he saved, and some teenage sweethearts. One of the monsters bit me earlier, and now I'm really sick and really hungry. They surrounded the house now. I'm so hungry.
Right. Oh, here we go. Feedback. That's sorted. There we go. Right. So that was the first child. Now I didn't set up a system of maybe selecting who would answer the question. So what I will say from future here, I'm going to keep an eye on you, my beady little eyes, and the first one to stick their arm up, I will take you as your first answer. But for that one, does anybody want to posit an answer? Has anybody got an idea?
I'll give a stab at it. I heard something about hiding out in a farmhouse and about teenage sweethearts. I mean, is it War of the Worlds?
No, not War of the Worlds.
Okay.
There are other farmhouses hidden out. Possibly
There are.
more iconic farmhouses. But we'll move on. Dawn, do you have a suggestion?
Is it got something to do with the shirt you're wearing right now? You're wearing the Night of the Living Dead top.
That may well be not only a slight clue, but a direct answer. Yes, that was Night of the Living Dead. Does anybody have an idea as the name of the little girl in Night of the Living Dead?
That's my guess.
Oh, hang on. Okay, Hank says he feels like it's a Margaret. Or Maggie.
No. Well, what I'll do is I will throw that open to the further extended reaches of Twitter, etc. So if you do know the name, no cheating. I know you're going to be using the internet to respond, but try and resist the urge. But if you do generally know, just contact me at Pablo Bonzo on Twitter. Yes, so Dawn gets the point there. So for the next one, we're going to move on to... Yes... we're going to have this one here, and then we're going to finish on a really hard one. So, I know I won't do innuendo. But yeah, so if I'll keep an eye out on you, and if you can stick your arm up, first one to work out who it is, I'll go straight to you once the clip is finished. I might even pause it midway, who knows? Right, let's go. Oh, sorry, yes, I need to reset up the system just to make sure.
I can take this headphone off.
Were you able, Horror Wayne, to listen with the headphones? Did that help with me turning it up, or was it worse? Or
Without sounding like making excuses, my hearing is terrible at the start because that was just mumble.
Would you like to put the headphones on then during this time?
It would still be mumble.
Okay.
But I got little bits, so let's see how it goes.
Well, in many ways, I suppose Dawn, the quiz was originally intended for two Waynes, so Dawn, it can be an auxiliary Wayne in Wayne's poor hearing shoes. Yeah. So we'll go straight on to the next one. So I'll turn the mics down. We'll go straight into it.
My mummy and me moved here recently. I got lonely, so went to play in the basement. I found a game, and more importantly, a new friend. Fortunately, that friend took over my life and made me sick. My mummy got worried, but the doctors were no good, so she got someone else. I got better, but the man who helped me fell out of the window, and I've gone off pea soup for life.
You have to put your
I apologise there. I'll work out a different system for the turn off. I think I'll do the speaker first next time. Yeah, we'll do that. Also, Wayne of the horror variety has got his hand up there. Have you got a guess?
I'm going to guess at The Exorcist.
That's correct. Extra points for the name of the girl. This is probably the easiest one.
Dear me. There's the one for you.
Exum of Emily Rose?
No.
Wayne Quaver in there. I'll throw that open. Somebody must know.
Reagan.
That's correct. Wayne back in there. That's moments. I must say, with your difficulties over that one, this is really going to make the next one. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We've got no hope, is what you're saying.
Might be a touch niche, but you know.
You're point behind for these two.
I should point out at this point that, you know, I'm not really like a massive. I don't have a massive knowledge of horror. I don't know. There we go. There's the shocking one. So.
Hey, it's okay if it's modern horror. I'm doomed. I'm a classic horror.
Okay.
Don't say that.
But then all of like the modern horror, they just redo all the classics because a good idea never dies. Oh yes.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a John Lennon quote I could throw in here somewhere.
There is, absolutely.
But to be honest, I think somebody said it before him, so we'll move on. Right. So this next one. Right. So. System-wise, turn down mics, turn up speakers, and we're a go. Well, actually, wait, I'll prep it first. That's probably better. That makes more sense. Right, and here we go. See you on the other side.
I live in a big house with my brother and sister. We're all sick because of a disease that runs in the family. The older I get, the sicker I get. We have aunts and an uncle who are confined to the basement. Our chauffeur, Bruno, looks after us, but when he's away, we get up to all sorts of mischief. Some distant relatives want to take our house, but we'll see about that. I'll catch them in my web and sting them with my bite.
And we're back. Oh, look at that. No feedback. What have you done, Pablo? You've worked out the desk. That's what you've done. Only taken 3 months. Here we go. 4 months, maybe. Right, so any guesses there? I noticed there was no hand shooting up across the board. This is probably a little bit niche.
My first guess was going to be Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, but I can't remember a brother and sister in that one.
No, and also there was I even possibly dropped a little. It's true to the film, but also could have led you down a merry path of Red Herring Avenue, which was a slight allusion to people being in the basement. You know, people under the stairs. Things
yeah,
like
well, that's why I thought Don't Be, because I know the original was all based around the basement. You see.
Yes, well, I don't know. Should I throw this one open to Twitter? I don't know if nobody's come forward with the name of the little girl from Night of the Living Dead as of yet.
We've got Hank.
Check, just out of curiosity, is it Ghosts with Nicole Kidman?
No, it isn't.
That was
do you mean the others?
Oh, the others! That's
The
right.
others.
Why did I think Ghosts?
No, although that
That's
was
2 kids, isn't it?
that was in contention to be one of the ones,
And
but
it's definitely not Poltergeist, is it?
it's not Poltergeist. No.
It's
Well,
just the aunt and uncle in the basement.
I don't know.
Is that it?
Well, what I'll do is I'll leave that lingering in the air. If anybody wants to try and hazard a guess at that one over the Twitters, then at Nova Radio NE or at Pablo Bonzo, you can find me there on the Twitters. But yeah, so I'll play a few songs next. You know, who knows? There might even be a clue in there somewhere. Right, okay, so coming up we've got some tracks, and we'll see you right on the other end of this.
Even Matt's messaged me, are you struggling with the quiz?
Maybe.
I was like, it's hard. I'll let you see you do it.
Yeah, at least you guys both got 1 each. It's pretty dang good.
You got my back, bro.
What?
So you got my back, bro.
Oh wait, did you only get that because of me? Oh man, here I'm thinking, good old Dodge. I haven't even looked at her phone yet.
Ninja.
That was obviously total ninja. Yeah.
So basically,
Technically, I was doing it. I was doing it on your behalf, so technically you got the point.
Well, I appreciate that.
So it's your point.
Very gracious of you to concede that point.
It's a dead real combination.
To be fair, I thought one of them sounded like that Hereditary film that's just come out late last year, the one with when she starts snorting at one point. I only ever seen the trailer. It's terrible. It's like this, have you seen the trailer to this Hereditary?
Oh, I really want to see that. I'm
Oh, Hereditary. Oh, right.
When she just randomly snorts, I was like, huh?
Well, the one thing I understand from it, even though I haven't seen it, the one thing I understand is that all the kind of trailers and everything like that, I have no real
It's actually made
inclination into what the actual film is.
Oh.
But basically, kind of the trailer that they threw out, because that was the biggest thing that a lot of people came out from seeing it, was saying that this was not what I was expecting at all. But in many ways, that was a good way to see it. So a lot of people who saw the trailer thought, I'm not that bothered about that. In actuality, they're probably the people who need to see it.
Yeah.
It's,
That's me. I was just like, this looks terrible.
It's probably I think it's if you like your kind of the more kind of like your arty side, like what's it, like Mother, that was out a couple of years ago.
Oh, that was dreadful.
I just care for Mother.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, but it was dreadful.
There's some of them which are like the issues which I have with some of them are like the more arty type ones is the often they kind of like get a very long time to come out with the kind of denouement. And then when it is, it's kind of like it's just like one note type of thing.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, oh, well, they were so new on something to a point there. I thought it was going to be a little bit more. But that's what I found with like Mandy. I watched Mandy, and to be honest, I really didn't like it. I thought it was rubbish.
I still haven't watched it. Everyone that's raving about it are people I don't trust.
But to be honest, I did have a couple of drinks before I went to see it, which may not have helped. But what I found with it was it was just basically like 40, probably like close to 60 minutes of just kind of like drudgery with the odd little thing here and there. And to be fair, Nicolas Cage was really good in it, but and I don't often say that. And but then like it's just the last like 15-20 minutes where stuff happens, and it's kind of like a 80s metal video, like a lot of the stuff in it. So, is there any specific new horror films? I know, Wayne, of the horror world, you're not necessarily a fan of the newer films. What was the last new horror film that you saw that took your fancy?
Mate, that's a tricky question. The last decent horror.
Oh.
That's
very silent, yeah.
I really don't know.
He's an old school guy.
I am,
also-
but
yeah, he's really
I
old
tend to
school.
watch a lot of the old ones over and over and over again.
Well, Dawn's going to throw it over to you. Is there any particular one that jumps out at you recently?
I mean, I'm quite the same as Wayne. Like modern horror is quite over the top. Personally, I quite like my psychological horrors a bit better than full-on gore. But I did go see the new It. Was it last year it was out?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I did go to see that. And funny enough, I actually watched that before I watched the original. And I just remember sitting there and kind of laughing. Like, well, obviously not trying to be loud because people are trying to watch a movie. And I just remember hearing this guy behind me going, "Why is that girl giggling?" My boyfriend was just like, "Can you stop? Like, people are noticing you laughing." And I was like, "I'm not even sorry. It shouldn't be funny."
No, I must say I hadn't seen that one, but I did get to see it recently, and it was all right. I mean,
was
The
all
way
right.
he struts out that fridge, come on.
well,
Like,
yes, where there's a little bit of the old kind of stop motion aspect to it, but I think the one thing that I did a podcast a little while a few years back, and we did a bit of a focus on it when they first announced their film. And as part of that, we look back on previous iterations, and to be honest, the TV series is like a kind of two-parter.
Yeah.
It's very toothless, and it really is quite an arduous one to get through by today's standards. Kind of not technically horror, but it's kind of like the Teen Wolf of proper horror, where you remember it in a certain kind of fond way, but when you go back and actually watch it again, it's terrible. And I'm throwing down that gauntlet. Teen Wolf, awful film. Teen Wolf 2, much better. Teen Wolf, awful film.
What?
Give me a keg of beer.
I'm going to step away from the mic quickly whilst you fight this out.
Well, as I say, I know Horror Wayne does like to rewatch horror films, so he may well have rewatched it not that long ago, but I must say, when I rewatched that, the scales fell from my eyes. I found it to be a bit poorly made, and just gave me shivers. It was,
Sorry, are you saying that Teen Wolf is a horror movie?
Well, yeah, that's why I'm going a bit blank here for.
Well,
Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. It's like a quintessential 80s coming-of-age movie in which he just so happens to be a werewolf.
Well, werewolves, incidental as it may be, that's a tenet of horror. So therefore,
Okay.
like as his dad said to him, he's got to embrace it and embrace the wolf inside him and don't let the wolf control him. At the end of the day, he's his own man. He's not his
And
own
Jason Bateman in the second one, who is a phenomenal actor, but who plays his cousin or something,
Yeah,
and that's where the
wolf.
strand
It's a
comes in.
bloodline thing.
Yeah.
I have a question for Pablo.
Okay, Hank's talking.
This should be
Hello, Hank.
interesting.
Are you saying that all horror comedies are inherently horror over comedy? Like, say, Little Monsters?
Well, you've got to argue
Is
the
it a
case.
comedy or a horror?
Well, technically, none of these films would exist without horror, so therefore there is a horror element to them. So whether it's Little Monsters, the Monster Squad, there's there's little things in there which are obviously for children, but there's the kind of the darker edge. Who expletive deleted in my apple juice, for example. Little Monsters. It's all about monsters that live underground and attack people in their nightmares and things like that. It's a scary concept for little children. You've got to ease them in nicely. If you get them straight in with Watership Down, I mean that could be argued
Yeah,
to be a horror.
I didn't watch that over Christmas. I was like, I've already been traumatized once in my lifetime. I don't need it a second time.
Yeah, but I would say is if you've got to describe something as a horror comedy, then by essence it's a horror film. Obviously, it depends. If you show it to your grandma, she might get frightened. So take it from that.
It's an interesting concept, I think, because some of my favorite films, I guess, would be considered horror sci-fi. So you would argue whether they're sci-fi more than they're horror. So, for example, The Fly, either the well, not so much the original with Vincent Price, but more the remake with Jeff Goldblum, and of course Aliens. Which
Sci-fi.
Pure sci-fi.
there you go. But you see, many would say there are a lot of horror elements to that movie.
There's horror elements.
Yes.
I agree with that. There's horror
Yeah.
elements, but it's sci-fi. It's aliens.
Yeah, I see what you mean,
As I say, sci-fi horror is probably with comedy horror. As I say, the funny aspect of it is the subverting the horror genre. Whereas sci-fi horror, I must say, I personally have also found that it's a tricky tightrope to walk because Event Horizon, I would say out and out horror, but obviously it's sci-fi with that. I mean, in many ways, they basically said let's get Hellraiser and Aliens and smush them together and see what we get, and they ended up with Event Horizon, which I think has got possibly one of the most sickening scenes at the start of the film. Not what you would expect. It's actually the bit where it focuses in on the space station and it's all turning around. And I've never felt seasick in a film before, but that was the first time that I did when I saw that on the big screen. Made me feel really queasy. Anyway,
Here's a quick one for you then.
Right.
Jason X.
Jason X, to be honest, I have kept my distance from Jason X. I've saved that for some point in the future. I couldn't bring myself to it when they revamped the franchise at that point and did that. It did seem just beyond parody.
It is, but it is fun. You've got to watch it as fun.
It is something that I do want to delve into at some point, but I don't think it's something I'm going to.
But would you put that under sci-fi as well because it's in space? But to me, it's just horror.
So which film was that again?
Jason X.
Jason X. Well, it yet again is taking something that is horror and putting it into space. Much the same way if you did, Nightmare on Elm Street in space, it would still be a horror because you're taking somebody from horror and placing them there. Much in the same way as a horror comedy or a horror romance or you've had them. You've had them. They've been about. Although some would argue that most horrors, in essence, are actually love stories, damaged love stories. But love stories are the same.
Horror gets literally stretched way too much these days. That's the problem.
Well, that's it. I think sometimes people just need to stick to something and just get on with it, rather than trying to be too nuanced. Because I think if you kind of stick to your own guns and sail to your own mast or whatever the paraphrase or whatever would be. But
quick question.
Yes.
The Frighteners, horror or comedy?
That's a horror. It's ghosts.
It's horror with comedy
and a serial killer.
Yeah.
I won't go into any further detail. If you haven't seen The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox,
Fantastic.
Amazing.
one of Peter Jackson's best films,
I agree.
that and Heavenly Creatures. Of
Yes.
course, for your bad
Yes.
taste, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't go into this because I do need to sign off. So what we're going to have to do is say goodbye because we're coming up to the witching hour. So I'm going to have to put on some songs before we finish and leave it at that. So I'm going to say a goodbye to Wayne Madden from the Spanish Announce Table.
Thank you very much. Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, and goodbye to Dawn as well. I apologise, Dawn. Your last name has escaped me for a second.
It's Crute.
Crute.
Yes.
Dawn Crute.
I'm used to that, don't worry.
Well,
But thank you for having us, it's been great.
Yes, and thank you very much, Wayne Thompson. What a fabulous surname you have.
Very much.
Oh yeah, he remembers yours.
Yes.
It's the most commonest surname other than Smith.
Oh, well, that's it. We are common as Thompsons. Wait a minute. Okay, so that's all from us. So we'll be back on next Tuesday from 10 p.m. as always here for the Vault of Horror. Make sure you get home safe, or just make sure you turn off your radio safely. Not that I'm casting any aspersions on K-pop corner. If that's the way your bread is buttered, then by all means get on board there. I like a bit of K-pop every now and again, but you know, if you like your horror, I'm kind of thinking you probably don't. So yeah, you can listen. I'll stop talking now. Right, I'll see you next week from 10 p.m. on Pablo's Vault of Horror. Goodbye.
So Cabin in the Woods to you is a horror movie.
Not only is Cabin in the Woods a horror movie, but Cabin in the Woods is essentially the first of every horror film. Every horror film could technically be argued that Cabin in the Woods is an origin movie for every other horror film.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Except that
I
it's
had to
clearly
watch that
covered.
twice because the first time I was being a wuss.